Sometimes having an old-fashioned Christmas or a simple Christmas can be as easy as using things that you already have. In this clip, I have a sleigh that I already had, a pine cone with a little bit of decoration on it, and some cinnamon sticks that I wrapped up in some ribbon for a centerpiece. How easy is this? How fun? And I used things I already had. Happy holidays, everyone. Welcome to the channel. I am doing a Vlogmas this December 1st through 24th, where I am sharing things every single day with holiday content. And I wanted to show you that little centerpiece I made from things I already had, just to do something new this year and have a little bit of creativity and fun with it. I'm not a super creative person, but I enjoy doing things like this and using the things I already have in different ways to make them seem fresh and new. And I had some extra cinnamon sticks, so I thought, what could I do with these that I haven't done before? And I thought that would look so cute in the sleigh. One of the other old-fashioned things I'm pulling out this year is my Bundt cake pan. Now, do you still have one of these? It is for denser, thicker batter. These have been used my entire life. They've been used for jello molds. They've been used for ice molds to put in like punch bowls at graduation. I always did that when my kids graduated high school. I would make a ice mold with like juice and some pineapple maybe in it that would float in there, and we would put it in the punch bowl, and it was so beautiful. But I want to make a pumpkin bundt cake. Only this one isn't going to be pumpkin today. We're going to use sweet potatoes that are in the can that are in the place of pumpkin puree. So it's going to be a sweet potato bundt cake. How festive is that? Sweet potato pies have been around forever. If you've ever tried them before, they're very similar to pumpkin pies. So making a sweet potato bundt cake, I thought just was a really festive way to use up some of my canned yams. So let's get started. So I've started out by taking my bundt cake pan and spraying it and adding some flour. This recipe calls for 4 eggs, and I have some egg whites left over from doing something else, so I'm going to use that as my 4th egg. Now, I always tell you, recipes are a suggestion. So using up what you have and saving an extra egg there, I think it's a really great idea, and I'm not going to let those egg whites waste. And we're just going to mix the eggs up with our fork. I know the yolk was broke on one of them. That's because I dropped a piece of shell in there and I broke the egg yolk getting the shell out. So I don't want you to think that the egg was old. This recipe also calls for 2 cups of sugar, but I'm going to lessen it to 1 3/4 cup since the yams are canned in a type of syrup. And then we also need a teaspoon of vanilla and 1 1/4 cups of oil of your choice. We also need 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of cloves or allspice. You can use whichever one you have. I'm going to use cloves, and 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I really like it when Christmas and the holidays roll around because I feel like I use a lot more of my baking ingredients around that time. I have a 29-ounce can of yams that I drained, and I'm just going to beat them up until they are creamy like pumpkin puree in my bowl. As you can see, it turned out looking like pumpkin puree, and I need 16 ounces of a pumpkin puree, so I'm going to use 2 cups of my sweet potato mixture. Once I drained those yams and beat them up, they made exactly the right amount when I mixed them up as a can of pumpkin. Now, this recipe calls for wheat flour and for regular flour. We are gluten-free, so you can use your regular flour if you would like. But I'm going to substitute 1.5 cups of my Bob's 1-to-1 gluten-free flour. And then for the wheat flour, I'm going to substitute my buckwheat flour. So 1.5 cups of each. I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and mix up these wet ingredients, measure out my flour, and I just carefully take the spoon and lift the flour out and carefully put it in the container. That way it's not packed too tightly and it'll make your cake a little bit lighter. And then we want to mix in our flour until it is just moistened. Then we will add it to our bundt cake pan and we will put it in the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes. I'm really excited about this. You could even pre-work up your yams if you had some in a can and you didn't know what to do with them. You could even work them up and freeze them in the right quantities. And that way you could use them up. We have some of these and we don't particularly care for them. So that is how we're using them up. And some of you know we owned a grocery store for a long time. And when we sold the grocery store, we ended up with some items left over because the new owner wanted to pick their own products. And so I'm still using up some weird things like this that I probably would not have purchased on my own. But we're not going to let anything waste around here. We're going to use it up. And I think this is a fun, festive way to try to use this up. And it should substitute just equally. So there's my buckwheat flour. And I'm really happy when I can use things up. I don't like to waste stuff. And sweet potato pie is delicious. There's no reason to think that this would not be just as delicious substituting the sweet potatoes in this recipe. So I'm going to get this mixed up and get it in the oven and show you the finished result. This smells absolutely delicious. And the whole house now smells like the holiday. And I was able to use the oven and heat up the house a little bit on this really cold day.